The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
Double duty, if you know what I mean. Hold on, here's a phone call. And as I'm saying, a flapjack flipper in a roadhouse in the 20s on a Sunday morning. That's how hot and heavy the news stories are. They are coming in all the time. Crazier than ever. Whatever is driving this anti-Russia, pro-World War III lunacy is not human. I don't believe it is. I don't understand what's going on in terms of my reference to humanity as a species. It makes no sense. Maybe it's every 100,000 years, maybe 500,000 years, the species reaches a point, kind of like Edgar Cayce talked about, where it gets into genetic manipulation, playing God with organisms, with the plant that we know as, well, it's a planet, not a plant. And we know it as home. I guess it is a plant in a way. But we have something going on here that is not human. Maybe there's a mass extermination event that is programmed into us genetically, and we're on that doorstep now. I have seen nothing. Now, granted, these are onions and they're many layers deep of intrigue, plotting, scheming, behind the events we see in the so-called mainstream media. We don't know what's really going on. However, every indication that I can come up with, between the lines, above the lines, below the lines, suggests that there is an insane drive toward forcing Russia into at least a regional war. Now, let's flip the coin and come back home and talk about the commander-in-chief. This man, as the last time Gerald Celente was on, and we talked about, has continued to act in ways that are unusual. It's like he has let his facade just drift away. He doesn't care anymore. He's, the outlawing or the attempt at outlawing of 223 ammunition was a whopper. That's amazing. If he starts with one and he were to get away with it, what's to prevent him from banning all ammunition? Nothing. Anyway, I'm babbling here, but it's an issue of so much information coming at us all the time now that the average person, be they well-intentioned or not, just would rather not deal with it. And I honestly can't blame them. But let's go and say hello to our colleague and friend of many years, the master of trends, Gerald Celente. Are you there, Gerald?
Hey, good evening, Jeff. Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. Have you ever seen anything so nutty in your life as what's going on, honestly?
No, I really haven't. I haven't. And
I run out of words for it. I can't.
When you look around and you see who's leading us, and, for example, when you look at the presidential ticket, it's not a two-party system anymore. It's a two-family.
Two-family, it's like a bicycle wheel. It's the Clinton-Bush family, and wherever you start, you end up at the same location sooner or later. You're right. Hillary's email thing is actually quite amusing to me. This woman, as wretched as she is, and she is wretched, keeps running into these Benghazi email, crisis after crisis, and she's still walking and talking. They've got to. It's time for her to be flushed.
Well, again, when you look across the board and look who there is.
Exactly.
I mean, it's one loser after another. How could anyone with any self-respect look up to a Hillary Clinton, a George W. Bush, a Bill Clinton, a Barack Obama,
Jeb Bush, Herbert Walker Bush,
Nancy Pelosi,
any of them,
Dianne Not-So-Feinstein, McConnell, little Lindsey Graham, one loser after another. And you were talking about, I was listening, you were talking about the the hatred that's being sown against Russia. And as you well know, in the TrendsJournal, I mean, our tagline is history before it happens. And we were showing that during the Sochi Olympics, in the build-up to it, they were setting the pace for a major move with major anti-Russian propaganda. So people forget. And so you go back to the Sochi Olympics. Hey, Jeff, don't go to Sochi. I hear there's toothpaste bombs on them planes. And they got a black with Obama. Yeah, and you know those Sochians over there, they slaughter stray dogs.
Right.
And that water,
absolutely,
it's yellow. And you know what the yellow is?
Oh, it's urine. They're serving
right.
up urine to drink.
And look at those lousy hotels. You haven't finished them yet. This place is a joke. What happened before the Olympics, 57% of Americans believed there was going to be a terror strike.
In Sochi. That's how much the MSM does to the psyche and the mind of what's left.
And they bring out all of these so-called experts to keep selling the lie.
Oh, yeah.
The United States looked at Russia, perception of Russia was at its lowest point since 1994. And
Agreed.
Putin, of course, was looked upon as also at the lowest point. So now, this is all in the lead-up to the Ukrainian crisis. So they had set the foundation already. And I don't know if you were talking about that guy, this retired general, major general, Robert Scales. Yeah, what's Scale? What is he, F minor? Or rotted scale on a fish?
It's a skin disease.
So you've been talking about him then, right?
We have been, not tonight yet, though, but yes, we have. Go ahead.
About what he said that here's his quote. He said, the only way the U.S. can have any effect in this region is to turn the tide is to start killing Russians.
Lots of Russians, as fast as we can.
Yeah, killing so many Russians that even Putin's media can't hide the fact that Russians are returning to the motherland in body bags. Now, if this is not a lunatic, if anybody else said this, Maron, would you hear people yelling and screaming?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But this is becoming the accepted. So now it all ties together, by the way. Why is there so much militarism in the United States? Why are cops blowing away people? The fish rots from the head down. Murder Incorporated is in charge.
Murder Inc.
There were some more drone strikes. in I think Somalia yesterday.
Uh-huh.
It's one after another. Oh, by the way, they're no longer reporting the dead Americans in Afghanistan. They used to report it in the New York Times. They stopped doing that.
Well, how reliable that was, we don't know. We know it was more than they were reporting, and there were almost invariably civilian casualties.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, the propaganda mill is running full blast, and people keep asking me, Mr. Celente, what business should I get into? And I always tell them, propaganda. You could do it stupidly, you could do it cheaply, and you could get great results.
Interesting response. By the way, the general that you mentioned, General Scales, with the skin condition. By the way, Skype also always reminded me of a skin condition, but that's another story. Moscow wants to put him on trial, the U.S. general who rallied to kill more Russians. This is from Sputnik. Russia's investigative committee has launched a criminal case against Robert Scales, retired U.S. Major General and a Fox News military analyst, who said in a live broadcast that the only way for the U.S. to turn the tide in Ukraine is to start killing Russians. The criminal case is launched under an article on public calls for unleashing an aggressive war through the mass media, according to a statement on the official website of the committee. Now, I'm very glad to see the Russian, this won't go to court, of course, but I'm glad to see them at least reacting like this. They should sell it like it is. The man is insane.
Insane.
Insane, completely. Now, that's not the only thing we have that's insane. Lindsey Graham is at it again. Did you catch this one?
I saw that one.
All right. Well, for those of you folks who didn't, here's the story. Lindsey Graham. As president, I would use the military against our Congress. I'm not kidding. That's what he said. And the article that I'm going to read from here briefly, the guy says, folks, what can I say? The words of South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham are not only chilling, they are tyrannical. Graham, speaking to a group of people gathered in New Hampshire, said if he were president of these formerly United States, he would not allow Congress to leave Congress until his demands were met, and he would use the U.S. military to ensure they could not leave town, a clear usurpation of the power by the executive branch. Now, here's another one. Let's tell it like it is. The man is not mentally competent.
Him and John Insane McCain.
There you go.
One after another. Pelosi, Dianne Not-So-Feinstein, one after another. McConnell, every one of them. And it's not only here. I love the one that came out from Israel a couple of days ago from their foreign minister, Avigdor Lieberman. You read that one, right?
Yep. They're evil sons of bitches.
Those who are against us, there is nothing to be done. We need to pick up an axe and cut off his head for any Israeli Arab that is disloyal to the state of Israel.
Yep.
Now, could you imagine if an Arab said this about a Jew?
Thank you.
Perfect. Could you imagine if the Iranians said something like this? Would there be outrage? But it doesn't make any of the prostitute U.S. media. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah. Well, again, I got to go back to this Lindsey Graham thing. He would use the military against Congress to force Israel.
Of course he would, because this guy couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. Of course he would use somebody else. Yeah. All these little cowards would always use somebody else.
Oh, another one you got to look at, and there's a lot to be said by looking at the faces of some of these people. Look, I'm not knocking people. They have their own genetic history and all that, but some of the expressions on these people's faces tell volumes, like General Dempsey. Look at his eyes, ladies and gentlemen, please. Just look at his eyes.
These people...
And how about General Breedlove or Breed
War? Isn't that a great name?
Oh,
Breedlove, yeah. Breedlove, not war, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's a freak show.
Thank you. Stop. We have in this country a carousel of freaks going round and round and round, and the world must look at this freak show and just scratch its head and want to start digging a hole real deep. America is nuts.
And you forgot to add in Samantha Powers.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, she's over there in Brussels telling NATO to pony up more money for defense.
Yep.
If only the women were in charge.
See, now look, neither you nor I nor any honest-to-God American really cares if a woman were in the White House or a man, as long as we have the best that we can present.
Exactly. I'm just saying that because of the hypocrisy of that.
Of course.
I'm tired of hearing it.
With
Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright, one mass murderer after another. It's not about race, creed, color, religion, gender. It's about people. And they use this stuff to divert the craziness of the crazy person.
You got to have a woman. I got to have a woman. I got to back Hillary. Are we ready for Hillary? We're ready.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we're ready. We need a woman in there.
Yeah,
Good
gender
God.
issues are the most important thing to me. Transgender issues.
Yeah, well, that's next. That's next. We have never seen anything more insane, more crazy in my
I haven't
lifetime.
either. I haven't either. I have not either.
And I mean,
we're just talking about politics. Let's go into something else that's totally lunacy. I got a deal for you. You know, Mr. Rense, here's what I'd like you to do.
All right. What is
Buy some of my German bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the euro is declining in value,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll be able to cash them in 5 years. And I guarantee you, just sign over here, when you pick them up in 5 years, you have a negative yield. Well, negative yield, well, that means you're going to get less dough than you paid for them. And not only, if you don't like my German bonds, I got a Danish one for you.
I like
Don't
you.
like that?
You're my
How
kind
about
of guy.
from Netherlands?
I trust you implicitly. I'll do whatever.
I got
you
one from
suggest.
Switzerland.
I'll take
Want
it.
one from Sweden?
I'll take 2.
Okay. So now this is what's going on. It's never happened.
No, never happened.
In the history of the world, part 1 or part 2.
The question is, can Vladimir Putin maintain his relative brilliant position on the chessboard and continue to keep these lunatics somehow in check? I don't know if he can do it. I honestly don't. Too many
Well, of course he
advisors
can.
on the ground
No,
now.
what are you
Hopefully he
kidding?
can.
No, not even hopefully. I don't take a side on this. This is the Russians. If anybody's half awake, Napoleon could. We have conferences here.
Yeah.
And one of the attendees of the conference brought me this beautiful framed chart, a famous chart of Napoleon's march to Moscow from the borders of Poland, leaving with 422,000 men and coming back with 10,000.
I know.
And then, of course, there's Hitler, who launched the greatest military offensive in world history. By lost against the Russians.
Yeah.
Anybody thinks that they're going to beat the Russians, step right up. I got a ticket for you. Go over there and lead the charge. Let anybody that thinks that the Americans are going to beat the Russians, just put this into your head. We lost in Korea. We lost in Vietnam. We lost in Afghanistan, and we lost in Iraq. I forgot. We won in Grenada.
We've talked about that. That
right. So
incredible
you think
war.
anybody is? Oh, and I love this one. This guy Juncker, the guy that's the head of the European Union now.
The junk man.
Yeah, he was also the finance minister and the prime minister of Luxembourg. Luxembourg is getting tough with the Russians. You can't make this stuff up. They're going to add another 900 soldiers. Lithuania's going to add another 1,000.
Oh, my.
I mean, this is. I think the Russians have about 750,000. Right?
I can hear Putin's knees knocking right now.
I know, and now this guy Juncker, he wants to also build a force beyond NATO, a European defense force to fight against Russia. Now, just to put this in, maybe I'm missing something and you could help me out here.
Oh, yeah.
Did Russia invade Iraq, or was it Russia that invaded Libya?
Well, I'm fully expecting...
Is it Russia that's sending drones into Pakistan and Afghanistan? Or is it Russia that's sending drones into Somalia and Sudan?
Well, Russia's
or is that NATO or the United States? I keep getting them mixed up.
Some of these, I'll bet Lindsey Graham is predicting Russia will invade Texas next week. I'm serious. Look, this is so disgusting. One thing one of the Russians said about the West and its BS in Ukraine and its meddling and it's basically orchestrating much of the strife and the death in the East, he said, the Americans are missing something. We know how to fight and die.
I know. I'm saying these are the Russians.
That's right.
You know, I'm a close combat practitioner.
Yes, sir.
And we told a story in one of the Trends journals. My teacher, John Perkins, and anyone wanting to see the what I used to study, I had my own school for a while, so a number of years, and it's attackproof.com, attackproof.com, and we did a story in the Trends Journal, and this is going back into the early 1991, 95, around there when the Soviet Union broke up. And this Russian guy comes into class. It was a different trip, man. And Perkins tells the story, you know. I mean, you're dealing with a different character here.
Oh, yeah.
My classes used to be, I'd go to class, and a new student would come in, 25 years of Kung Fu, whatever it might have been, and Perkins would bring him over to me and say, "Hi, this is Gerald Celente." I'm all of, 5'8", 140 pounds, and a big galoot, and we'd shake hands, and Perkins would say to the guy, "Hey, do anything you want to him," meaning to me. That was my class, yeah. So anyway, when this Russian guy came in, Perkins didn't do that to anybody. He worked out with him. This was a whole different cat, man.
No, they are. You talk about a super soldier. That's as close to super soldiers you're going to get. Rank and file. We may have some freaks that are jacked up with chemicals and DNA
it's a whole different mentality.
But the general Russian soldier they don't stop. They don't quit.
No, look, they lost how many million people in World War II? 20 million?
Yeah. And they never quit.
20 million.
Granted, they had Bolshevik commissars behind their front lines, and they would be shot if they turned around, but still, they kept going. All right, hold on just a second. We'll be right back with Gerald as we continue on this Thursday night in the merry month of March. Okay, and we're back with Gerald. I don't want to belabor this, but honestly, Hillary is in my view, finished, done. I think she's not going to be able to pull this off. She's too old. She's not telegenic. Not that that's everything, but it's important. Telegenic in the sense that not only doesn't she look good anymore, but she doesn't look and sound good anymore. Her arrogance, that little dismissive laugh, it's disgusting. It's too early. There was an argument in her campaign about a month ago. I don't know, argument is the right word, but a difference of opinion about when she should announce. And most of the people wanted her to announce a month or two ago. And she said, no, I want to wait till June. Now, maybe she knew that this private email server, which clearly broke the law, by the way, it broke the law, was going to come up. How many more skeletons are there in Hillary Clinton's little closet of joys and delights? She's a liability to the Democrats. Not that the Democrats mean a damn, they're all the same, but they got to come up with somebody else. Jeb has already said things about immigration that utterly, absolutely disqualify the man. So the two front runners may end up not being there. Although between the two, I would suggest that the power dynasty, the Bush dynasty, the real money dynasty would have Jebby. He'll probably hang tough in there. I just don't see how Hillary can get through this. Of course, I've been wrong before.
I don't think it's, when we're talking about this issue, right?
Yeah.
Has anybody talked about her murderous track record of her and Samantha Powers and Susan Rice?
Goes way
starting
back.
The Libyan War?
Way back.
I mean, these are the issues. Remember that wonderful video of her on TV? We came talking about the death of Gaddafi.
No, this wasn't a death of Gaddafi. This was a horrible, subhuman, satanic, ritualized murder of the guy.
Right. And what has she said? We came, we saw, he died. He.
No, it was more than
he.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, Jeff, is that people are concentrating on this issue, and the real issue is a track record of a murderer, a track record of a psychopath, and people are concentrating on this minor issue like Benghazi. These aren't the big issues here. The big issues are what she has done in the name of war.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
And murder.
Yeah. Absolutely correct. This woman is not what we want. Now, I'm going to give you another chance to hear this. Listen, please, to how she was allegedly watching this on video or very close to it, how she reacted to the death of a human being who, without any question, and I'll be the first to say it, and I think Gerald will probably be right with me, Muammar Gaddafi was a great leader of his people, gave more back to his people from the natural resources of that country than any other Middle East dictator maybe ever has. They had it made. It was a wonderful, wonderful country. All right, here's the Secretary of State on Muammar Gaddafi and the brutal, hideous murder that we ultimately were responsible for. All right? This is what Mrs. Clinton had to say about that. It's not very long. It's short, but listen to the laughter. It's very.
So, that is the land of unconfirmed reports.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your...
Okay. You get the laugh, folks. That's not the kind of person I want representing my country. I wish this person was even in my country. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. Sure, Muammar Gaddafi was easy to make fun of, and the Zionist mainstream media had a field day. But his people loved him. And when you look on paper and honestly read what he did for those people, his great waterworks project, astounding. The guy was nobody's fool. Anyway, enough. Okay.
And, it was also the richest country in Africa?
Well, I think on a per capita basis it may have been.
It was.
Those people got free home loans, free education, free medical. They got, what the hell, they get $25,000 a year or something on graduation from high school. Something. They got an enormous amount of return of the wealth and riches of Libya back to its people, which is really what countries are supposed to do, not loot it.
And the other point of it is it's none of our business.
No, thank you. George Washington, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll never forget, I watched it when Obama announced that we were going in there because of a humanitarian mission, and I was writing about this in the TrendsJournal.
I remember.
How many people Gaddafi was slaughtering, and I wrote how many people died that day in Yemen from the dictator that we were supporting. That tripled the number that were dead in Libya that day.
Oh, yeah,
but anyway, Obama does this dog and pony show at some military installation, and so help me God, he leaves there and he's on Air Force One with his wife, his kids, and his mother-in-law on a trip to Rio.
I know.
No sooner did he finish. And again, when you're looking at Hillary, or Hitlery, as I affectionately refer to her,
let's not disparage
I think it's
Hitler.
important to look at the other issues that are much more telling of the sickness of the people that we have here.
Yes, sir.
Running this
Absolutely
country.
right. Absolutely right. And then we have Little Rand, who is he's selling his what's left of his soul to anyone he thinks he needs to, and his he got his curly hair. Ever since he got his hair curled, he thinks he's a little pretty boy. He's not. How about all the pictures of America's great leaders, Gerald, at the so-called Wailing Wall with their little skull caps on in deep meditation with their hands on the wall? I mean, it's just enough to make you want to vomit.
You didn't have to look at that. All you had to do was watch them like trained seals jumping up and down when Nuts Netanyahu was addressing the joint meeting of Congress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What a disgrace. Every one of the people in that audience were traitors to this country.
Thank you. Amen. 100%. All right, hold on. Be right back with Gerald in just a couple of minutes. Don't forget, the TrendsJournal, without question, the most unique and probably the most important magazine publication in America. It's what Time magazine used to have, well, once upon a time, but will never be again. It is a wonderful, wonderful publication. Be right back. Okay, I'm back with Gerald. While we're doing sound clips, we just had, I think it was an anniversary of Vicki Newland, or Noodleman, her real name, and her blank the EU remark with Jeffrey Pyatt and her, that phone conversation.
Sure.
Well worth... now, folks, these are the people who are leading you and I, spending our money, $5 billion to overthrow the legitimately elected government in Ukraine. This is Vicki Noodleman. That's her real name. This is her little famous, it will live in infamy on the internet.
I can't remember if I told you this or if I only told Washington this, that when I talked to Jeff Feltman this morning, he had a new name for the UN guy, Robert Seri. Did I write you that this morning?
Yeah,
okay.
I saw that.
He's now gotten both Seri and Ban Ki-moon to agree that Seri could come in Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
So that would be great, I think, to help glue this thing and have the UN help glue it. And, you know.
And I think we've got to do something to make it stick together, because you can be pretty sure that if it does start to gain altitude, the Russians will be working behind the scenes to try to torpedo it.
Fuck the EU.
No, exactly. And again, the fact that this is out there right now.
No, exactly. You see, Vicki was thinking at this time in her career that she was running the board game called Ukraine and Russia and that part of the world. And she was talking about who to put in this position, that position in the new Ukraine government, the Kiev government. So Vicky is still a key player. And you mentioned Samantha Power and the others. Yeah, Obama has really surrounded himself with some great ones, hasn't he?
What a fraud.
Yeah.
The Peace Prize winner. Yep. Again, one slaughter after
by the way,
another.
the guy that nominated him for a Peace Prize was somehow, I've forgotten the exact terminology, but he was demoted in the Nobel organization recently, last week for that. And
yeah.
It won't make
again,
up for what he did.
When we're looking at Hillary Clinton, they're passing, they're focusing on this and given the actual crimes for which she shares responsibility during her years as Secretary of State, the illegal wars, the drone strikes, the assassinations, the surveillance, one after another, the regime change in Ukraine, one after another, and they're playing around with this phone stuff, and so we're in a place now where the lunatics are clearly in charge. And you mentioned about Victoria Nuland. She's just before Congress, and she's railing on about the thousands and thousands of Russian troops and the hundreds and hundreds of pieces of artillery, and on and on and on and on. How about, can anybody show me a photo? I haven't seen one photo.
No photos.
In this age of selfies, photos are everywhere, and you're telling me every day, either from NATO, from somebody in the EU, or somebody in the USSA, they're talking about Russian artillery, Russian tanks, Russian soldiers, and I haven't seen one photo.
It's reverse
The only
projection.
photo I see, they should do one of, what's his name, Colin Powell, with that little vial, I think that's the size of his manhood, that he showed up to show that was the proof that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
They should roll him out again.
Yeah, I think what she's actually doing is as much reverse projection. She's describing what we are doing as opposed to what the Russians are actually doing. We finally admitted it.
Humvees. We're sending trainers. We have troops there.
Those are lethal weapons. Those are Gerald. Those are lethal weapons.
I know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
right.
On the last few minutes that we have, I know a lot of people are interested in the economy.
Please.
What's going on? I mentioned I was, talking about negative interest rates before.
Yeah.
This year, we're only in March. 24 nations have lowered their interest rates, and many of them to all-time lows. They're pumping the markets with cheap money to keep the Ponzi scheme going. This is unprecedented.
Yeah.
You're seeing Abenomics is a total failure. They just revised their GDP for the last quarter downward again. However, the Nikkei is at 15-year highs. In anticipation of the quantitative easing in Europe, which they're buying $1.3 trillion worth of corporate and government bonds, the markets there are at 7-year highs. Today, they came out with retail figures in the U.S., and the numbers were down again in February. They were down in January, and retail numbers were down in December. So, on that news, the market went up some 360 points. 260, excuse me. And that was because they're feeling that with retail being soft, the Fed might not raise interest rates, which they have not raised now for nearly 10 years. Now, going back to the interest rates and going back to the retail numbers, if retail numbers keep coming in negative, December, January, February, how can it possibly be that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, when they report job growth, are showing all of this job growth in the retail sector?
What retail sector? 90 million Americans out of the job pool, and they're not even in the pool anymore.
But every month they're coming up with this growth in retail. And the numbers are proving that retail sales are way off.
Way off. Yeah. It's all a
So
lie.
how could they be coming out with these fake numbers? And that was one of the top trends for 2015, the grand manipulation. And that's all this is. Having said all of this, I have to tell you, Jeff, just as we said earlier that we've never seen it so bad, never before in my life have I seen greater opportunity for positive change. People are not excited about Jebby Boy or Hillary. This is a time for a new third party. The opportunity is there. I predicted a new third party in my book Trend Tracking in 1988, that there'd be a new third party in 1992, and I even mentioned in passing Ross Perot.
Have you been approached, Gerald?
The time is better now than ever.
Mm-hmm. Have you
and
been
I
approached?
think it's a positive.
Have you been approached?
Me? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding.
Nah.
You're too smart
No,
to do it, I know, but it's the kind of integrity that we need. Yeah. The kind of integrity.
There are other people with integrity. You among them. There are a lot of people, and I believe that somebody with that persuasion, with already, I think the candidate is in waiting. I think that this may be the year of the great shakeup, because again, in our lifetimes, we have never seen two big, heavy lightweights like we've seen with Jeb and Hillary, literally and figuratively, at the head of their parties, ready to run the race.
I agree. Both equally as nauseating. It's time that a new face. We need a new face, and a new face. Hillary, how can she even pretend to go on with this charade? I don't know. But she does.
There was an interview of her daughter, Chelsea. Another arrogant. Would you run for office? Of course I would. Oh, and you know what she's going to fight for, of course, gender issues.
No, of course.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's going to really change this country.
The world.
Yeah, transgender issues, I say. Yeah. You elect me, I'll fight for transgender issues.
Unreal. Talk about
and a chicken in every pot.
Yeah, some pot in every chicken.
Yeah, a GMO chicken, thanks to the Clintons.
And that's the truth.
No, GMO-fed chicken, I should say. Yeah, these are the people that gave us NAFTA. They destroyed the Federal Communications Act. And now we have 6 companies running 95% of the communications. These are the people that brought us bovine growth hormones. These are the people that brought us GMOs. These are the people that allow the drug companies to hawk their deadly prescription drugs on the air. Never was allowed before. And, of course, the Glass-Steagall Act. We need a Clinton in the White House. Not enough destruction? We'll show you more. People forget that right after Bill Clinton got elected, he bombed Baghdad.
That's true. All right. Bill Clinton is also...
Oh, and I forgot the Serbian War. How can I forget Kosovo?
Don't remember that. That was a depleted uranium
That was only
special.
Another slaughter.
That was the blue plate special. He has... cleaned up on over $16 million in benefits and perks since he has left the Oval Office, Slick Willie. And today, by the way, another story which we're going to be watching when it's gone through by attorneys. Let's see what the FCC has produced by way of 330 pages of new regulations, rules for the Internet. We'll see what they came up with. Just released today. So this will be fun. Thank you, my friend.
Jeff.
Always. You be well.
See you next month. Bye-bye.
Okay. Good night. Gerald Celente, and yes, over 300 pages of new rules and regulations for your internet, compliments of the Federal Communications Commission. Let's see what they say. They're being analyzed right now. All right, we'll be right back.